Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Aaron Klein, the CEO of Nitrogen, and Ashton Moore, partner at Model B. Today, I'm excited to speak with Mark Firmin, President and Chief Operating Officer of ACOM Solutions and CEO and co-founder of eTreem. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When the last step to earning your client's business requires processing paperwork, don't ruin a good relationship with a bad experience. Instead, get Quick Forms to make processing forms a great experience and the easiest part of your transaction. Visit quickforms.com to learn how we make processing forms easy. Before I introduce today's guest, I have to give a big thank you to a good friend, Mike Jalonen, for introducing me to Mark. Go check out Mike's newest solution to drive better habits at habitdriven.ai. All right, I'm so excited to talk to Mark. Mark Firmin serves as President and Chief Operating Officer of ACOM Solutions and CEO and co-founder of eTreem. Man, you must be busy over there. For over 25 years, ACOM has been a holding company of multiple B2B software solutions, either built from startup or through acquisition. Mark is also CEO and co-founder of ACOM's latest startup, eTreem.com. eTreem delivers integrated receivables and payment processing for US-based businesses with revenue between $1 and $500 million. Mark has over 20 years of experience in B2B payments and SaaS solutions. He's built a reputation as a transformative and results-driven B2B tech leader and has completed 4 successful exits, including a B2B fintech that was acquired by American Express. Wow, Mark. Welcome to the Customer Wins.
Hi, Rich. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now, if you haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Mark, we want to understand your business a little bit better. How does your company help people?
Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity, Rich. It's good to see you again. You mentioned Mike, and that's how we met. You'll recall we served as directors on the board for one of Mike's startup, and it was an amazing 18 months. I'd love to share that we both exited that with a big windfall in regards to money. On the other hand, it really was a windfall in learnings in regards to what can be a challenge with a startup. It was a good experience, and I'm really pleased to hear that Mike's new business is doing so well. So I think he'll be happy with the shout out. That was great.
You know, I think it's a good lesson to remind people. I mean, we get so enamored with startups, but they don't always work out the way we want. And man, I mean, Mike had a 6 or 7 year run. It wasn't something simple or trivial even. So yeah, I think it's a good reminder for everybody. But what are you doing now?
So Rich, thanks again. So right now, yes, I am wearing the hat of President and COO of ACOM Solutions, which is, as you mentioned, a holding company. So ACOM has always invested in businesses that deliver tech solutions, predominantly SaaS, into the accounting function here in the US, but also in Europe. And what we saw was an opportunity early last year for addressing the receivable side of the accounting department. So every business has to bill their customers, and it's always a challenge to get those customers to pay you quickly as a business owner. And then even if they do pay you quickly, you have to process that payment, and you have to match the remittance with that payment against the invoice, if that's the way that you bill your clients. You have to reconcile that in your accounting system, and then not 100% of your customers pay you, so you have to chase down those customers that are not paying you, and you pay for the pleasure of doing that because you have processing fees depending on what means you collect payment from your customer. So credit card fees, even checks have fees associated with them. So eTreem, the concept is this: we help your customers pay you faster. We simplify your accounts receivable process, and we do that while reducing your payment processing costs. That's our value proposition for US-based businesses.
Man, you just said so many different things. I mean, when you just think about the process that you talked about, there's so many moving parts, right? It's the collection and like, is it ACH? Is it check? Is it credit card? And all these different methods, and forget cash. I'm glad at B2B, we don't do a lot of cash business. And I think just about my own company, we had a customer who grew really big, and they went from credit card, paying us $300 a month to thousands and thousands a month. And they continue to want to pay credit card. Our fee was like $300 a month just to process their credit card. So is that something that you would help us with if that were the case?
Actually, we should talk offline about you possibly being a customer for us, Rich. We can definitely help there. Now, and you gave one example. Now imagine a business that's doing 300, 400, 500 million on their top line, with many customers paying them all different payment rails. That's the term we use for check, ACH, and so forth. And it just gets very complicated. And most businesses, their department, their accounts receivable department, they are using just labor to manage that processing of the inbound remittance and payment and match it. The human errors that can occur, best intentions aside, human error always occurs. So we've built a SaaS-based platform that automates most of those steps. The key is have your accounts receivable staff focused on chasing those customers that aren't paying you on time or have underpaid. That's where you should be leveraging your resources, and we take care of the rest. So yeah, your example of $300, we can help reduce that a little bit for you, Rich. We should talk offline.
So I think about a lot of these companies, Slack, we signed up, pay with a credit card. You go Airbnb, you sign up, pay with a credit card. And those types of businesses that are SaaS or online, is that a kind of company that you can help with this process?
It would be an example of a client that we would work with. We want the client to be of a certain size, amount of revenue that they're processing. So a small, you use the example of Airbnb, someone that's got maybe one huge Airbnb, but if someone's got a portfolio of Airbnb, maybe we can help them. Yes. The key is that they've got relationships with clients. It's just, how do we help them improve that relationship? How do you make it easier for your customer so that it's not too much work? So the challenge with those examples that you gave, a better example might be a business that does T-shirts, just a lot of T-shirts, and they're selling to other businesses, right? Many of us go to trade shows now, and we want to get those working the booth to have a certain shirt. So that's a business, a T-shirt manufacturer, that's selling to other businesses. And in that example, they may well enable invite their customers to pay with a credit card. And so we can piggyback on that, and we can help reduce some of the costs on the back end. But many of those businesses build different ways. Some of the business wants to receive an invoice. They want an invoice submitted to them. So when you've got a lot of different payment rails that customers want to pay you on, that's where we really add value, because there's some complexity there. That's where we make a difference. That's where we really help those type of businesses.
Yeah, because not everybody is a pure digital play where they only take one credit card format, like Stripe only or something. So if they're dealing with a lot of different variety, they have to have a lot of hands in the pot to make it work. I get that.
If I may, one of the reasons we developed this business is that the parent company is ACOM. ACOM has stood up eTreem. Now, ACOM, one of its other businesses is called ACOM Software. ACOM Software serves about 1,100 corporate clients here in US and Europe, and they average about 500 million each on their receivables. So there's about 500 billion, $500 billion of receivables that are coming into those clients. And what we started to realize is those businesses cross all industries. So they could be manufacturing, distribution, they could be retail, but many different businesses. And they, at that size, from an accounting perspective, often have customers that are US, but also could be international. So you've got an issue with foreign exchange. You then got multiple entities. They might be a holding company, so they're trying to handle accounting for multiple functions, but at the end of the day, their financial accounting needs to roll all that up. So when you get into the accounts receivable in that kind of environment, you can imagine the complexity is much greater than the business that's doing just a couple of million. And so what we tried to do is build a platform that can scale for both the small business, but also these, what we would, that are typically classed as medium-sized businesses. Though personally, if I was running a $500 million business, I don't think I would call it a medium-sized business. I would probably call it an enterprise, but that's the classification that's used. So what I'm trying to say is that the complexity and how we can make a difference for these customers, it varies so much. And that's what makes the job fun though, right? I mean, you build a platform, but then you have so many different situations and so much complexity. Those challenges are what we live on. That's fun to us.
So I love hearing this kind of story, Mark, because I love the entrepreneur's journey. I mean, I know you sold your company to ACOM a long time ago, and you were a startup, an entrepreneur. Now you're in a position of helping startups and doing another startup. And one of the coolest parts of what we just said, if I can understand this correctly, is you have built something that your existing 1,100 customers might want or need. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to take it to them. I mean, whether you sell it outside it's great if you can, and you will, I'm sure, but you have this built-in audience to go after, right?
Often we forget that what we have already in a customer is very valuable to the business. We often forget that. And it doesn't mean that you're just trying to upsell them on something. No, you've got an opportunity in a relationship, go talk to them. So if I may, eTreem was started in April officially the start date was April the 1st of 2022. So here we are in July of 23. So what's that? 15 months of age. We put the money in on the business on eTreem, and then all we did was invest in product development and customer conversations. So all we literally did have been doing for 12 months is non-revenue generating activity. All we have done is go talk to customers and ask them what challenges they have around accounts receivable. Now it helps that they have an ACOM solution that's on that happens to be on the payable side. So we can call them up and have a discussion about what challenges are existing on the receivables. And when you've got a customer that averages 15 plus years with you, you've got a tight enough relationship, you can leverage that. But when you have a conversation, it's so much easier to just say to someone, hey, we are exploring how we can make a difference for you. Could you please help us understand your processes today for receivable and what your challenges are? And it's amazing what you will learn. We took that information and all we did was just keep developing product such that by the second quarter of this year, so again, almost 12 months, April, we were able to roll out, which we call a MVP, a minimal viable product. It will address certain issues that we saw patterns in our customers. So then what we started doing in the second quarter was reach out to those customers and share with them what we had developed to date. Now you start having a conversation where you get temperature about, well, is this something that they would commit to at this time in the form of dollars investment? And if not, what do we need to do to get them to do so? But it was nice because we'd had those initial conversations where we listened to them, for us to now come back and share what we heard from them. You're just opening doors. And now, fortunately, we're in a nice position within eTreem that we have this large parent in ACOM that's funding and bringing cash in. But what was great was that the board at ACOM that's overseeing eTreem, that I was constantly in discussion with and presenting, they kept saying to me, do not worry about revenue, worry about customer needs, understand what the customer wants, then go, we'll worry about revenue later. So second quarter of this year, the most recent board meeting, I presented the findings from our research and how we were now talking to customers. And they said, okay, great. Now we need to get some expertise on the sales side of the house. So ACOM, fortunately, funded our next phase, which is we are now hiring today 3 reps. We're investing in a new marketing agency to overhaul our positioning and our website. Most importantly, we have set dollars aside for discretionary marketing lead generation. But the message to these new sales reps is, yeah, go get some business, get us some new customers. But more importantly, we want feedback about what customers do or do not like about what we're doing, because we need to hit our next milestone, which is product market fit. How does our solution really help these customers? And then how do we possibly scale that? So we're not at that stage. Even though we're invested in sales and marketing, it's still exploratory. For the next 12 months, it is money being invested to understand our customers before we even really start to grow this business. But that's what it takes this day and age, I think, to be successful.
Mark, this is one of the things I like about you so much, is that you have this methodical, clear view of how to bring product to market and how to build to customer needs. I mean, you are exemplifying how customers win because you're listening to what the customer wants. So I want to ask you a question that before you start asking them, how did you decide AR, accounts receivable, would be the focus? Why not something else? You must at ACOM have, a view to 20 different problems your customers have. How did you guys come to this idea of we should focus on AR and then go ask these questions?
There's a little history there, so bear with me as I tell you this journey that we took. ACOM as a company has been in business for over 30 years, actually, over 30 years, and has always had a number of solutions that were on the accounts payable side of the business. So solutions that help you pay others. For example, software that at one time was actually microcheck printing and printers and consumables, right? Which then moved into the digitization of payments. How do you pay people with ACH? Which has later become how do you pay if you're a buyer? How do you pay your suppliers on virtual credit cards, which are tokenized credit cards instead of just plastic cards. And that's become a growth in regards to payments. Well, what we had done is we had seen that development because we've been in that business for decades. And in 2015, 2016 at ACOM, we saw the opportunity to take that whole payable side of the business to a whole new level. And we built what's called a automated accounts payable solution. The automated accounts payable solution was just everything from the last 20 years in one simple SaaS-based platform that would enable businesses to control their suppliers and how they pay them. That's the business that we built over 3.5 years, and American Express came and bought from us in October of 2019. So we had 20 years in the making of that successful 3-year run, and we sold the business. So a lot of people tell me, wow, 3 years and you sold a business to American Express. Well, actually, it was 20 years of late nights and working many things, but people don't want to hear the work. They just want to hear about the fun success. So we had always been on the payable side. And now in 2022, 23, you've seen a lot more investment on the payable side. What you were not seeing through that entire run was much on the receivable side. Okay. And so we enter 22, and my co-founder and I of eTreem, he was the individual that built the platform on the payable side. We said that there are solutions out there on receivables, but the adoption is still small, and that market is growing. And we knew that the investment community were hungry for investments on the receivable side because there'd been so much M&A, American Express buying us, some of our competitors getting bought by other players, that the investment community was saying there's got to be something on the receivables. And we knew that because we had been on the payable side, and we know what it's like to pay suppliers. Therefore, what all that means is that when we went into 22, we said, there's an obvious need here. It's a growth market. We can play here on the receivables. So it's sort of an evolution. So I always say to every entrepreneur, you have got to be in the game to win. We've been in this game so long in so many different ways looking at it. We think we're in the area that's going to win. We'll probably talk about in a moment pivoting, but we think we're in the right area at this time to succeed.
Let's define something you just said a little bit better, because I've heard that phrase, you have to be in the game to win. But I've always thought that meant you just have to play the game. But what I think you're saying is you have to play the game for a period of time, a long period of time, to understand it, see nuance, see opportunity, see angles nobody else has seen, and build this body of experience that you guys built so that you can be in a position to take advantage of an opportunity that you're now identifying.
I think you summed it up well, and I mentioned pivot. with that experience, you know, if you're on a path that's not right, you can pivot off of it because you've got that prior experience, and you have the best idea. You think it's the best idea, but the reality is others around you will advise you that maybe not, maybe that's not the best idea, and here's why. But if you've got that years of experience in this area, you know that you'll listen and you'll make a change. I think I told you, Rich, that I've been doing angel investing myself individually for years. I really turned it on the last couple of years. And I have to tell you that when I look at investments for startup, the number one I look at, and you've heard this, is the team. And you want the passion, the excitement, the willing to commit. But if they've got experience in this space and they've been at it for a long time and looked at it different ways, I love that. I don't need the 20-year-old entrepreneur. I would rather all day long take someone that's got a little long in the tooth experience from different perspectives, because that to me is invaluable in being able to succeed.
I want to share with you one of my favorite things about entrepreneurs who want to come raise money, and they've got this new idea and they're really excited, and they give you the pitch, and the pitch is, if we can just get 5% of the market, we'll do $5 billion in sales.
I think that
experience teaches you don't get a percentage of the market. It's not about that. It's about solving a problem. It's about customers saying yes to your solution and you saying yes to their need and being able to provide it. So I totally appreciate what you're saying, that you talk to somebody who's been there and done that for a while. They get it. They're mature enough to know how to go to the next thing, which is exactly what the example is you're giving, that you took a stance. You said, hey, we should go into receivables. And then everything you said was you went and talked to your customer. You listened to them. You understood them. And I'm sure you gained just incredible, valuable insights. So I have another question about that. How did you sift out the truth? Because I'm sure you heard a lot of different things, some more important than others, right?
I think you're looking for patterns is the answer to that. You don't know whether or not where their problem lies, how big a problem that really is in the market. But if you start hearing the same thing from multiple people, then you're onto something. And one of the tricks I found over the years is that just let customers talk, just let them share and don't steer them, because they will get there in the end about what's really driving pain in their business. Just let them talk, and don't worry if they're not in the area that you thought they should be in, because that may mean something. They may have a pain somewhere else. You know, it's like going to the doctor. Oh, my shoulder really hurts. Okay, but let's ask, I thought you came in here because you had a bad leg. Yeah, but doc, my shoulder really hurts. And you start asking questions and you find out they fell over this morning and they really hurt their shoulder. Okay, we'll spend time on the shoulder. Just listen to your customers and they will take you there. I agree with you though, there's a lot of noise. And that's why you got to talk to more than just a handful. You got to talk to as many as you possibly can.
Yeah, no, I applaud you. So you said you've got your first customer, and I'm curious, how did you win that first customer? Like, how did you get them to say yes? Getting your first paying customer is one of the hardest things and most gratifying things about a new business or a new product. Is there a story there that you could share?
Well, what you said was paying customer. Okay, so with our solution, this first round of first customer we brought on the platform and the first that we will bring on, we are willing to give them the actual platform that someone would normally pay for. And the reason for that is that we can get paid on a per transaction basis. So for the customer to come on board, we're removing all the barriers, right? That's the trick with a new solution. Yeah. And the reality is, for most small businesses, it's friendlies that are going to buy from you if they do buy or you give it. In our first customer, the way we got it through the door is there's no upfront cost. We only get paid on a transaction. In other words, we have the same skin in the game as you, because if it doesn't work and you're not getting paid, we're not getting our per transaction fee. So the dollars is always part of it. The other is that for our solution, there's an integration. One of the value points that we bring is tight integration with their underlying accounting system. Well, I've got a team that goes back to the experience and being in this game for a long time. They've done over 100 different accounting integrations, and every system's slightly different. So we can give confidence to the customer that their investment of time, because it's not costing them anything, but it's still time, which is just as invaluable, is very minimal because we do all the heavy lifting. So what we did to get that first customer was say, what would be the reasons for them to say no? So they don't want to pay for it, too much time and effort, or too much training for the staff, or if it doesn't work, job security, right? So what we showed them was the no upfront. We do all the work in implementing. Training was minimal anyway. We built that platform. We just needed to show it. And we had a fail-safe. We could pull the eject button and we could switch them back to the way they were if it really hit the fan. It didn't. Right? It didn't. Yeah, right, exactly. Cross your fingers.
New products are scary like that. It's yeah.
But a lot of, I think, entrepreneurs, that's one of the challenges they have with a new product, is they can't understand why customers won't buy. It's a great price, it has all this value, and they seem to ignore the simple fact of the buyer has what's called job security. You can, when I first started out in the late 90s, you always bought IBM, regardless of the cost, because you knew it was going to work.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was the theory, right? And because I've been in tech for this long, showing my age, many entrepreneurs, when they first go out there with their first product, don't realize, regardless of the value proposition, the buyer still may say no because they can't afford the risk of buying from you, a small startup.
So there's a couple underlying things that you said there. Obviously, price is always a factor, but it's actually about value as much as anything. It doesn't have to be price. I mean, sometimes people are willing to pay because the value you're delivering is so high and so obvious to them. But another really, really big one is trust. They trust you because they've been working with ACOM possibly. They trust you because you guys have this wealth of background and experience and knowledge. And you're not just with this fresh idea that you're telling them what they have to do. You've listened to them. You've talked to them over this course of period of time. And all these things are overlooked quite often by entrepreneurs when they start a business that is so critical. Play within your content expertise, know that industry, know those people, get to know them really well, build that trust and that rapport. Price becomes less of an issue. And I get it in your case. I've given away software at low cost because it's software, right? The investment was building the thing. Whether I make $100 on it for a couple of months is not really a deal breaker for me, right? So I think that's really, really cool. I want to switch gears a little bit, if you don't mind, and talk about a little bit about artificial intelligence. I mean, you are in fintech and SaaS. You have to have an opinion on this, but my core question is, how do you see AI changing or impacting customer experience and what you're doing even?
Yeah, in what we're doing, when I look at AI, yes, I'm in tech, and yes, I'm in fintech, and yes, AI is going to be big here. So I probably has a little bit more advanced knowledge than others, but probably way behind some of the more early adopters. So with that large grain of salt, what I look at is AI is based on data, and we are collecting a lot of data on the customer invoices, stroke payments that are going through our system. Where if you look at our product roadmap, as is not about some of the value I talked about in regards to just streamlining and saving costs, as is about how do we help our customer maximize their receivables and the impact that has on their business around cash flow. And if you look at our roadmap, we are much more interested in making sure everyone's maximizing their working capital. And the way we can do that, and where we're looking at using data, using AI, is what patterns, trends do we see in their customer base where you have the opportunity to dynamically maybe negotiate with clients on the payment date based on terms, so that you can maximize your working capital, your cash. How do we empower our customer with that? So they have a dashboard that visually is representing that from an AR perspective, that specific function. That's how we are looking at our roadmap. We have a 3-year roadmap right now that's much more than what I've described, and that data, using AI on that data is big for us because that's very valuable to our clients. Very valuable.
Yeah. So it makes me think about, like, would your AI help a company who can't collect on a debt, on a receivable, I should say, negotiate it down, predict like, hey, offer this to this customer, you're most likely to get it, or something like that?
I think it'd be even earlier than that. How do you, what patterns, how do you make sure that you don't have collections involved? How do you get to the point that you're being alerted when you've got possibility of a customer not paying you? There's always circumstances, right? The other customer, natural disaster has resulted in, they can't pay you. There's nothing we can do about those. On the other hand, there are trends. Maybe in certain industries, you're in certain industries, there's certain indicators that would suggest your customer may have challenges in their business. How do we pull in data and highlight that before it gets to the point that it's really in collections and it's at 60 or 90 days? What can we do to empower our customers so they know 30 days or less, depending on their business, but that's pretty typical in B2B space, that there's a possibility of no payment, or you have to negotiate down to get some cash. That's where we want to catch it. Now, that's valuable. It depends on the business as well. I mean, many businesses just accept a percentage as write-off. And so it just depends on what industry you're in and whether or not we want to address that.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It's making me a little bit scared, because you might say, across all of our customers, we know this company is not paying these 4 of our customers right now. We can predict and tell this company that they're not going to get paid. Wait a minute, you can see the trend of my spending or not spending. It's interesting what could happen with this.
Well, what you're getting into there is a network effect. It's just how big are we and how much data we have. And that's where we really drive value in our business. I mean, when we look at how valuable this business is, if we've got a 10, 50 or $100 million business on just the solution I've described, that's great. And on a SaaS, that gets a very high multiple valuation. However, if we've got enough volume on the platform and we're collecting the kind of data that you just brought up, which is we've got a supplier across multiple, dealing with multiple buyers, and we can see, that's where we would really drive value in our business. So, Rich, it sounds like I should be asking you to be on our product management committee with that kind of observation.
You know, I'm a product guy, Mark. Oh, man, this has been such a good conversation. As I wrap this up, I do have another question for you, but before I ask it, what's the best way for people to find and connect with you?
Oh my goodness, can we hide these days? Rich, the best way is please find me on LinkedIn. I accept anyone that comes on LinkedIn. It's just a habit that I have, and they can always message me through LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yeah, you're great to find. Okay, so here's my last question, Mark. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style or how you approach your role today?
Rich, that's a great, timely question. It's my 29th wedding anniversary on Sunday.
Wow.
And so I am going to give a shout out to my wife, Lisa Riolo, who has kept me humble throughout my entire career and has been there when it's been tough, which is great, which is also just as importantly, told me when to maybe I need to take a step back and let some others take the glory and the praise for what they've done and contributed. So it's to my wife, Lisa Riolo.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. I recently drew all the events in my life, up and down, good or bad. And you can clearly see when I met my wife, everything went to the positive forever. I mean, it's such an amazing thing to have such a strong relationship. And I admire your accomplishment of 29 years. I hope to get there too. I expect to.
Good, good. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a special time. And like I said, what I'm trying to do is work on the 30th year event. I figure I got a year to plan for it. So that's going to be the big one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you very much to Mark Firmin, president of ACOM, CEO of eTreem, for being on this episode of the Customer Wins. Go check out Mark's website at acominvest.com and ETREEM, eTreem.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we take the work out of paperwork. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and even subscribe to our channel for future episodes of the Customer Wins. Mark, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Rich. Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.